admits to fatally injuring wife by decapitation. On a cold January afternoon in 2023, the peaceful life in the suburbs of Magnolia, Texas, was shattered by a horrifying emergency call. Rodney Dykes, with a trembling and broken voice, called the local police department to report a scene no one would want to witness. "My daughter-in-law is dead. There is no head on her body." This statement marked the beginning of one of the most gruesome murder cases in the history of this small town. Jared Dykes and Angie Diaz, both 21 years old, had married in October 2022. In their wedding photos, they were full of smiles and happiness, seemingly eager to begin their new life together. This was just under 3 months before the tragedy occurred. The couple lived in a small house located on the Dykes family property. On the afternoon of January 11th, Angie's in-laws came to check on her after noticing unusual behavior from their son. What they discovered was a horrific scene. Angie lying dead on the floor, her head severed from her body. Angie Diaz was born in Nicaragua in October 2001. She grew up in a single-mother household where her mother worked hard to support Angie and her siblings. Sometimes her mother had to work in Costa Rica and send money home, leaving Angie and her siblings in the care of an aunt. Jared Dykes, born in 2001, grew up in the Houston area. He attended Waller High School, where he played football. Jared worked as an electrician and seemed to be a normal, responsible young man, quite different from his brother Wayne, who had a history of methamphetamine use. Angie and Jared met by chance at Chepas Meat Market in 2022, where she worked. For Angie, Jared, a former American football player, represented the ideal image of the American life she had always dreamed of. They quickly developed feelings for each other and posted many affectionate photos on social media. Before meeting Jared, Angie had planned to marry a man named Jose. However, according to a close friend of Angie's, this relationship ended when she discovered Jose had become distant and no longer cared for her as before. Angie and Jared married in October 2022, coinciding with Angie's 21st birthday. It was a whirlwind marriage after they had known each other for only a short time. According to a friend of Angie's, they may have rushed into marriage after Angie had an accident and was at risk of being deported from the United States. Angie's uncle, with whom she had lived for a short time, had warned her not to make hasty decisions. "I want to make it clear to you. Are you doing this for papers? Because you shouldn't get married just to legalize your status. Do it for feelings, because you love him and he loves you." Angie insisted she truly loved Jared, that their marriage was real, and she wasn't rushing into anything. Her uncle agreed to be a witness, and they got married. On January 10th, one day before Angie was murdered, she came to work with a bruise on her shoulder. Her manager, Ruth Almenades, who considered Angie like a daughter, immediately noticed something was wrong. When asked about the bruise, Angie revealed to Ruth and a colleague named Erica that she was going to leave Jared and never marry again. She recounted that they had argued all night, and while she was showering, Jared had attacked her. The reason? According to Angie, she had gone out with her aunt on Sunday, and Jared didn't want her going out with anyone, even family. This seemed to be the breaking point in their relationship. Angie told Ruth, "I won't live the way he wants anymore." She planned to meet Ruth on Friday, when she had the afternoon off work, to talk more, because at the cash register, she couldn't say much with many people around. Unfortunately, that meeting never took place. Jared was also going through issues of his own. In November 2022, he was arrested for driving under the influence after behaving aggressively with staff at a local Whataburger restaurant. When police arrived, he refused to calm down and was taken to jail. He punched the window and had to be placed in a restraint chair so police could take a blood sample for DNA testing. In January 2023, he was out on bail awaiting trial for this offense, but his unusual behavior continued. Another concerning sign was that Angie had asked Jared not to sleep in the same house with her. This was completely contrary to the image of a happily married couple living together. On the night of January 8th, 3 days before Angie was murdered, the Waller County Sheriff's Department received a strange call from Jared. "I've used some drugs and I need help. I don't feel well." The dispatcher sent medical personnel to his location, but a few minutes later, he called back saying the same thing. I was poisoned yesterday, and I don't feel well. I didn't use drugs, I'm sorry. When medical personnel arrived, they took him to the hospital. He had used methamphetamine, the drug his brother Wayne regularly used. This broke his parents' hearts. His father, Rodney, later recounted. He kept saying he was using meth. Then when we questioned him, he said, "I'm not using meth, I just told you that." But we have experience with meth users. Not personal experience, but from dealing with family members who used meth in the past. And it's terrible. On January 11th, Jared returned home from work at around 4 a.m. He went to his house behind his parents' home, and they didn't see him until 12:30 p.m. that day. When he returned to his parents' house, his mother, Lynn, heard an unfamiliar ringtone. Upon asking, they discovered Jared was holding Angie's phone, a phone with a Spanish interface. Concerned about their son's strange behavior and the fact that Angie usually kept her phone with her, Lynn and Rodney went to check on her. What they discovered shocked them. Angie was dead on the floor, her head severed from her body. They immediately called 911, reporting the emergency and expressing their horror. "Oh my God, please hurry. Something's wrong with my son. Oh my God, I told him to stay in the hospital. I told him that 2 days ago to keep him there." When police arrived, they found a horrific scene. The main floor was covered in blood. Angie's headless body lay there, surrounded by cigarette filters and bloody clothes. The murder weapon, a bloody knife, was also found next to her body. Police followed blood trails from the bedroom to the bathroom, where they discovered the most horrifying thing: Angie's severed head in the bathtub. Jared was present at the scene, and police immediately arrested him. There seemed to be no doubt that he was involved in his wife's death. During interrogation, Jared was initially silent, but then began talking about a voice he had heard, something on his TV screen. "It made me do it to her. I don't know, because that wasn't Jared. That wasn't Jared," he said, suggesting that he had been detached from himself when committing the act. However, when asked if he had cut off Angie's head while she was still alive, he answered yes, and admitted to stabbing her multiple times before decapitating her. When asked why he put her head in the bathtub, he replied, "Her hair was wet." He admitted to turning on the shower, presumably to wash away evidence. Although Jared claimed he was in a dreamlike state when he killed Angie, he was still lucid enough to try to clean up and hide traces of his crime. Notably, that same day, he was captured on security cameras at the meat store where Angie worked, casually taking a beer from the refrigerator. He had killed his wife just 8 hours earlier, and here he was, stealing a beer from her workplace, as if to celebrate. During prosecution, Jared's mental competency became an issue, but a court-ordered assessment of his mental ability showed he was competent to stand trial. As such, he pleaded guilty to killing Angie. As part of the deal, he waived all rights to appeal his sentence. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison in August 2024. The tragic story of Angie Diaz is a painful reminder that domestic violence can hide beneath the appearance of a perfect marriage, and that even seemingly happiest relationships can conceal dark secrets. This is a cautionary tale about the dangers of rushing into marriage and the tragic consequences of domestic violence.